As I mentioned before in the previous video, that by using worksheet and workbook events, we can get really creative with VBA and start making our spreadsheets a lot more dynamic. And for this video, I will be showing you a trick that you can do with worksheet events, and hopefully it will open up your mind to new ideas that you can do with VBA. Plus, we are also getting more practice with writing VBA code. So sometimes Excel spreadsheets can get really cluttered, making it hard to read the data. For example, within the Fun Events Sheet tab, we have item numbers for our row labels, and then the months for our column headers. Well, if we are trying to point out a specific piece of data within this spreadsheet, for example, if I just click in I-18, the cell that gets selected does have the green border around it. And sometimes it's still hard to read which row or column that this piece of data is in, and you might end up looking at the wrong value. Well, let's say that we want the row and the column of this active cell to be highlighted for readability purposes. So for any cell that we select in this worksheet, it will highlight this column and this row that this cell is on. Well, we can do that by using worksheet events. So the first thing that we have to do is select the Fun Events worksheet inside our Microsoft Excel objects. And then to access the worksheet events, we need to select this dropdown and select Worksheet. Now there is no need to change the event because the selection change event is the event that we want. Because every time we make a new selection on this worksheet, we want to highlight that column and that row. So inside of this sub, we can start writing our lines of code. So what we need to start off with is a with statement. And remember, with the with statement, we can easily change the values of properties of a certain object. And the object that we will be changing is the active cell. And we can also go ahead and close the with statement. So now let's write the piece of code that will change the fill color of all the cells in this row that the active cell is in. So with active cell dot entire row dot interior dot color equals, and one of the ways to change the color property is by setting values for RGB, which is red, green, and blue. So for the red value, we can put 255, comma, 230 for the green, comma, and 153 for the blue. Then close parentheses. And the reason why I'm using these figures is because if we come up to the Home tab and we select our paint bucket and go to More Colors and then select the Custom tab, you can specify a color that you want and then get the values for that color. So we have red, green, and blue. And then you can use these values inside of your VBA code. So let's cancel out of this and continue with our sub. Okay, so we have the row color. Now let's change the column color. So with active cell dot entire column dot interior dot color equals RGB open parentheses 189 comma 215 comma and 238 close parentheses. So as of right now, if we select a cell, it will fill the entire row of that active cell one color and then the entire column with another color. But let's say for the cell that we select, we want to keep the interior of that cell blank, so it has no color. So we can type in with active cell dot interior dot color index equals 0. And that's it. So now let's go over to our workbook and select any cell and see what happens. So it highlighted the entire row with this orange color and then highlighted this entire column with this blue color and left our active cell with no fill color, so it's easy to see which cell that we have selected. Now if we select another cell, well, our sub performed correctly, but now we're left with 2 columns highlighted and 2 rows highlighted. So we need to go back into our sub and add a new line of code that clears out all the fill colors first and then fill in the row and column. So right before our with statement, we can add a line of code saying cells, which reference all the cells on this worksheet, dot interior, dot color index equals XL none. So this will make all the cells on this spreadsheet have no fill color, and then it will proceed to the with statement and highlight the row and column. So now if we select a new cell on this worksheet, it clears out those other rows and columns that were highlighted and only highlights the row and column of our active cell. And if we keep clicking around, now that row and column fill color will follow our active cell. So once again, this was just a neat little trick to show you to get some more practice with VBA, and hopefully it will open up your mind to new ideas that you can do with VBA.